Good morning. I'm Dave Cunliffe. I'm the Fire Chief for the City of Hamilton. Premier Ford, Minister Piccini, Mr. Lumsden, MPP Skelly, members of the Fire Service and media. I want to welcome you today to the Hamilton Fire Department state-of-the-art indoor training facility. It's our pleasure and honor to host you, Mr. Premier, today for this very important announcement. I'd like to call on Local 288 President, Hamilton Professional Firefighters Association President, Rob D'Amico, to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chief Cunliffe, for the introduction. On behalf of the Hamilton Professional Firefighters Association, Local 288, I want to extend our thanks to Premier Doug Ford, Ministers Piccini, Lumsden, MPP Skelly, and the Ontario government for their strong support of our firefighters. Their dedication to our safety and well-being is greatly appreciated. Hamilton's firefighters work tirelessly every day to keep our community safe, and we're proud of their commitment and service. A special thank you to Premier Ford for being here today. Your ongoing support means a lot to us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rob. Now I'm pleased to hand it over to MPP Donna Skelly.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here, and I am so pleased that we are making this announcement in my hometown of Hamilton. Many of you may remember 30 years ago when the worst environmental disaster in Canadian history occurred right here in our city, the Plastomet fire. A fire broke out at a recycling facility, and it burned for 4 days. And our firefighters entered the building without hesitation, and for 4 days they fought that fire, and they were exposed to toxic chemicals. The site housed over 400 tons of PVC material. And although the blaze was extinguished in 4 days, the implications of that fire lasted for years. In fact, many of our firefighters went on to get cancer. One in particular, Captain Bob Shaw, died of cancer related to that fire. And it was a former MPP, she's now the mayor of the City of Hamilton, Andrea Horvath, who brought legislation forward to the provincial government to encourage governments to look at expanding and extending care related to being exposed to chemicals for our firefighters. I want to thank her. I want to thank our Premier, and I want to thank Minister Piccini for recognizing the implications and the hazards that our firefighters face beyond the flames that include the chemicals they're exposed to. And now I would like to introduce Minister Piccini to say a few words.
Thank you, MPP Skelly, for that kind introduction and for your ongoing advocacy and for mentioning that tragic fire, but for also alluding to the silent but sometimes deadly and ensuing battles that are faced long after the fire's been extinguished. It's been a profound honor of a lifetime for me as Labour Minister to have the opportunity to work with Ontario's firefighters. It was the first call I took when I became Labour Minister, a call that has impacted me in a great way with the wife of a fallen firefighter, and we'll never forget that call. And I'm grateful for Premier Ford and for the government, for Greg Horton and the team who've been working so closely with our government to ensure that these families don't battle alone in silence. I'd like to thank Fire Chief David Cunliffe, Rob D'Amico, and the Local 288 firefighters for hosting us today. This is the team behind us that get the job done in this community. I mentioned Greg's tireless advocacy. I also want to mention Bob McCutcheon, Board of Directors for the OPFFA, Dan Worrell, who's on our Section 21 Committee, Jeremy Parkin, Vice President of the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs, who I believe is here today as well, Rob Rutherford, Mark Beau, David Cairns from the Firefighters Association of Ontario, and my caucus colleague, Minister Neil Lumsden. who's been also a tireless advocate for first responders here in the Hamilton community. But most importantly, it's a thank you to everybody who's here today, to the firefighters, to the investigators, the wildland firefighters and volunteer firefighters and their families for their courage and their service. Here in Hamilton and across Ontario, when others run away from danger, they run towards it, because everyone here has a story of a friend, a fellow firefighter, a loved one who has sacrificed to keep their community safe. Last month, 73 more firefighters were inscribed on the Ontario Fallen Firefighter Memorial. It was a moving service, and heroes like those who are here today deserve a government that values their service and recognizes the profound risks that firefighters take each and every day. Thanks to the advocacy, leadership and partnership of this firefighter community, Ontario leads the country with the most expansive presumptive coverage for occupational cancers for our firefighters, investigators, volunteers and wildland firefighters. This means that firefighters who take on the mission of protecting our communities, of keeping us safe, can access the benefits they deserve faster and easier. And as we announced yesterday, we're unlocking $400 million to invest in health and safety to keep workers safe on the job. Look, Ontario's done more in the past few years to recognize and support unique occupational exposures than any other previous government ever has. But we can't stop there. We also need to invest in prevention and work to ensure these exposures and subsequent cancers don't ever happen in the first place. Ontario was, of course, the first province to launch an occupational exposure registry, and we're working with the community on that. Our government is serving those who serve, and this is thanks to the advocacy of this firefighter community. You've challenged us to deliver on the resources and the supports that you have earned, and you've made us a better government as a result, so it's my honour to invite up to the podium someone who embodies that leadership and dedication. Greg, your advocacy has been nothing short of stellar, and it's thanks to Greg's advocacy that I'm announcing today a number of moves that the Government of Ontario is making, lowering presumptive coverage for kidney and for primary colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer diagnosis has been a tragic one and a big, big piece that Greg, you and this team has advocated for ensuring that we address the age limits there. And it's not only that, but it's also early screening and detection. And so today our government is expanding coverage for colorectal cancer, one that has affected so many firefighters, and is working with our Minister of Health to ensure early screening and detection as well. So Greg, thank you for your advocacy. To all the firefighters here today who are exposed to occupational exposures, I know that the government sees you. We value the work that you do. We will be there to support you and your families, but also we're there to invest in prevention so that you don't ever have to battle this in the first place. So Greg, thank you for your leadership. It's been an honor working with you.
Thank you, Minister Piccini, for those kind words. Premier Ford, Minister Piccini, distinguished guests, brother and sister firefighters. My name is Greg Horton. It's my distinct honour to be here today representing the Ontario Professional Firefighter Association's 12,000 members. Special thank you to Fire Chief Cunliffe and Mayor Horvath. We are very excited to be here in Hamilton today, which for many of us in the fire service consider Hamilton to be the birthplace of the occupational disease movement and cancer recognition in the province of Ontario. As mentioned previously, the tragedy that was the Plastomet fire really shone a light on the exposures that we face as firefighters, and it was then MPP Horvath that led a charge to start the recognition process for occupational disease. So I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for having us. In July of 2022, the World Health Organization Cancer Agency classified cancer in firefighters as a Group 1 occupational hazard, the highest level of carcinogenic intake possible. Firefighters are routinely exposed to carcinogens, chemicals, and other toxins while performing their duty of protecting Ontario's people and their property. Cancer is the leading cause of death among firefighters. 74% of line-of-duty deaths are due to cancer. Today, this government has made a commitment to firefighters and their families to recognize that those members who contract kidney cancer will now need 10 years of service in order to be recognized as an occupational illness due to their years of service to our communities. Additionally, the age 61 provision for colorectal cancer has been eliminated, allowing our members over the age of 61 to receive the proper recognition. Our families will now have recognition for their loved ones and the security to move forward without them. The importance of this recognition to firefighters and their families cannot be understated. Those that become ill no longer have to worry what will happen should they succumb to these diseases. To be clear, the actions of Premier Ford, Minister of Labour Piccini, Solicitor General Kersner, and this government have made a direct impact on firefighters and their families in the province of Ontario. The acknowledgement that this is a line-of-duty death ensures that the families are left behind will receive the recognition. Their names will be inscribed upon our granite walls, and they will be forever remembered by the citizens of Ontario. This recognition is not meant to replace the void left by the passing of a loved one. It does not erase the pain of their passing or the circumstances that led to their tragic death. On behalf of my brother and sister firefighters and their families, I'd like to thank Premier Ford, Minister Piccini, Minister Kersner, and this government for their unwavering support on this important recognition for firefighters across Ontario. Without you, this would not be possible. For those families yet to contract these terrible diseases, know this: we will continue to advocate for better health and safety policies and procedures. We will continue to advocate for gear that is safe for us to use while performing our duties. We will continue to advocate for early detection and screening programs. We will continue to work to eradicate cancer from the fire service. To those of you on duty today, stay safe, and thank you to everyone here today for attending this important announcement. It's now my great pleasure to introduce a friend to firefighters whose commitment to us has been unwavering, the Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Doug Ford.
Thank you. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone, and Greg, thank you for the kind introduction. But, you know, I got to give a shout out to all the firefighters here. I love you guys and gals, and you do an incredible job. And I'll tell you, we're blessed to have all of you, but we're blessed to have someone like Greg leading the charge and always being there and always having your back. And thank you for all your work, and along with Rob and the whole team, the association. And so I'm thrilled to be back here in the Hammer. I was back here a little while ago watching the Ticats with Lumsey there. He still thinks he's playing football, but he probably could strap on the pads. And alongside Minister Piccini, has been an incredible leader and a real champion, as well as MPP Donna Skelly. You know, I was talking to Donna, what was it, late last night, 9:30, and you were telling me about that fire. And you were telling me how the mayor stood up and really voiced her opinion. I want to thank you, Mayor, for everything you do for the people of Hamilton. I want to thank you for the incredible relationship that we have now. Isn't it amazing how things changed a little, just over a couple of years? But I think the world of her, I really do. And a big thank you to Chief Cunliffe. Thank you, Chief, for everything you do with all our men and women, the firefighters here in Hamilton. You got a big job. And again, Rob, thank you for your leadership. All the firefighters joining us today, I mentioned you're all absolute champions, and everyone from the Hamilton Fire Services indoor training facility. This is a spectacular facility. It's always an honor to be alongside our brave women and men in uniform. While they work tirelessly to keep our community safe, our government is working to ensure they have the training the tools, and the resources they need to do their jobs effectively. We're investing in new technologies to enable seamless communication between fire and paramedic dispatch. By working towards provincial implementation of simultaneously notification, we've made record investments for online safety courses, introduced new funding to train firefighters in ground rescue and wildfire situations, and have deployed mobile live fire training units across the province, connecting firefighters to the training they need. Closer to home, earlier this year, we announced an investment of over $9 million to build 5 new training centres across the province. That, once built, will have the capacity to train, these are big numbers here, more than 28,000 firefighters over a 5-year period. But we know the risks of the job go beyond equipment and training. Firefighters face dangerous situations every day, including exposure to harmful chemicals. That's why, as part of our 2024 budget, we introduced the Fire Protection Grant, a $30 million fund to help municipal fire departments acquire personal protective equipment and specialized tools to reduce exposures to hazardous substances. We're also addressing the alarming rates of cancer among firefighters, who face up to 4 times the risk of general population. Last year, we expanded presumptive coverage for firefighters diagnosed with primary site thyroid and pancreatic cancers. And earlier this year, we improved presumptive coverage for firefighters diagnosed with cancer of the esophagus. By lowering the required duration of service from 25 years to 15 years, we also lowered the required employment period for skin cancer from 15 years to 10 years, making Ontario's requirements for the skin cancer coverage the lowest in the entire country. We also included wildland firefighters and fire investigators under the same presumptive coverage, ensuring frontline heroes have the protections they need in every corner of our province. And today, as Minister Piccini mentioned, we're announcing that we intend to go even further. In the newest Working for Workers bill, set to be introduced next week, we're proposing several improvements to the WSIB coverage for firefighters and fire investigators in both urban and wildland settings. These changes include lowering the required length of service for kidney cancer coverage from 20 years to 10 years, giving Ontario the lowest service duration requirements in the entire country, and removing the requirements that firefighters' primary site colorectal diagnosis must be made before the age of 61. These changes will be a game changer for firefighters and their families, and this is the largest and most expansive coverage for firefighters in modern history to ensure better access to the care and the support they need while battling these illnesses. Friends, our government will always be here to support our fire departments and our firefighters, just as people rely on our first responders. Our government wants to make sure our heroes on the front line are taken care of as well. We'll always have your backs. Thank you again for joining us today, and may God bless our frontline firefighters, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
We will now go to reporters' questions. Reporters, please line up at the mic behind me. Please identify yourselves by name and outlet. It'll be one question, one follow-up. First reporter.
Good morning, Premier. Mark McAllister from City News.
Hi, Mark.
How do you justify pushing through last-minute changes as part of the bike lane bill yesterday that would prevent lawsuits coming forward from cyclists who may be injured or killed?
Well, first of all, what we want to do is we always want to make sure bike lanes and bike riders are safe. But when you have, I'll give you an example, Bloor West, zero consultation with the community because it would have been shot down. 0.5% of them are using a full lane of a road. 70% are drivers. They're barely being used, but they're taking up one lane of traffic. They're backed up from here to Timbuktu in the cars. People do not want the bike lanes on especially Bloor West. The mayor even acknowledged that. The previous mayor acknowledged it. The previous mayor even acknowledged that Yonge Street was a mistake, and I'm glad he admitted it. And we're going to work with the mayor and the city, and we're going to get traffic moving, but I want to make sure that the bikers are safe. I've always believed that you don't put them on main arterial roads, you put them on secondary roads, so you don't jam up the main roads. Again, I just want to run through these figures. In Bloor West, 0.5%, I think I'm being generous by 0.5%, take up a full lane of traffic that the cars should be on. 70% of the people driving are lined up all the way down Bloor, and it's just not fair to the drivers. And again, in Etobicoke, zero consultation. It was rammed down their throat. We all woke up and hello, here's a bike lane that no one uses. It's ridiculous.
With respect, you didn't answer my question about lawsuits and putting through the last-minute amendments, about preventing lawsuits. And second to that, these same amendments are raising the question about who's going to pay for the removal when all along your government has said that you would take care of it.
Well, we're going to make sure that we take care of the removal, and these numbers are throwing out 49 million, 70 million. It's absolutely a joke, to be honest with you. You think we're paving the streets with gold. You know, we removed Jarvis when I was down there. I think it was for $250,000. But I get it. I know the game, what they're playing. They're inflating the cost. It's not going to cost that much. Just watch how quickly we get those bike lanes out of there at a fraction of the cost. And no one's talking about, you're saying about the cost of the bike lanes. How about the billions of dollars it's costing our economy for people and goods and services going to point A to point B that can't get there because they have one lane of traffic in the most congested city in North America, the third most congested city in the entire world. We're going to move forward and we're going to get the city moving. We're going to make sure the bike lanes are safe and they're going on the secondary roads. They aren't going down the main roads on Yonge, University, and Bloor. And there's alternatives along University. You either take the 70-foot sidewalks out, 10 feet of them out, or you go down the medium, one of the two. But there's always more than one way to come up with an idea. But thank you for that question.
Morning, Premier. Lane Harrison, CBC News. Your government talks a lot about reducing gridlock so people can spend more time with their families, but 6 people in Toronto will never spend time with their families again because they were killed riding bikes this year. How do you explain the amendment that protects the province from lawsuits around injuries or deaths after you remove bike lanes to the families of those dead cyclists?
Well, again, my heart goes out to the families, and I'm so sorry that happens. It's just like I'm sorry when people get in car accidents and motorcycle accidents and so on and so forth. And, you know, that's terrible. We want to keep everyone safe. I want to keep everyone safe across the roads. But do you know who I want to keep safe too? When the firefighters jump in their trucks and they're trying to go down University and they're jammed behind traffic. They can't get there to save lives. Or they're trying to go down Bloor Street and it's absolutely backed up from here to Timbuktu. Or Yonge Street, that doesn't make sense at all. That's who I want to save lives for. I want to save everyone's life. Don't get me wrong that, you know, bike riders are important. Go on the secondary roads that run parallel, you know, a few feet away from the existing roads. Be careful out there. And we're going to get stuff going, moving, and that's what we're doing. Simple as that.
Okay. With respect, the fire officials in Toronto have said that the bike lanes in Etobicoke don't impact their response times, but I'm going to move on to my second question. How do you feel about the Trudeau government removing the entire HST, including the provincial portion, for 2 months?
Well, we did it 2 years ago. We just didn't go out there and do cartwheels. 80% of what they're saying they're going to do, we're doing. But hey, I got to give them kudos. Any government, I don't care what political stripe, wants to put more money back into people's pockets, good for them. And I love that they gave the $250 cash back to people. Folks, it's not our money. The government has a sense of entitlement that it's their money. No, it's the people's money. It's the hard-working firefighters, it's the hard-working people in the factories' money. It's not the government's money. So we look forward to giving back the $200, and I'm glad they took our lead on that. I think more governments should do that. Rather than gouge the taxpayers, how about giving it back to the taxpayers?
Hi, Premier. Sean Cowan with CHCH News. Hamilton, as well as our neighboring communities like Niagara and St. Catharines, dealing with encampments, dealing with the high price of housing, homelessness, mental health, and drug addiction. Right now, it's falling on municipalities to deal with this as well as the taxpayers. Does the province have a plan, a strategy to deal with this so it doesn't fall on the municipalities, perhaps a provincial issue?
Well, first of all, we've given over $700 million for homeless across the province. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Hamilton got $28 million on that as well. But, you know, I'm there to support the towns and the cities that want to remove them. I'll give you an example. Guelph and Cambridge, right? They went in there, they moved encampments. They have places for them to go. I know the mayor's working really hard to find homes for them as well. But let's talk about when they show up in your backyard, in your park, and there's crime, because I've experienced it up in Rexdale. There's crime, and houses are being broken into, and needles on the ground all over the place, and the kids don't feel safe going to the park because there's a whole bunch of these people sitting there. I want to give them shelter. I want to give them help. I want to give them a hand up. Most importantly, I want to get them a good-paying job to get them out of the situation they're in. That's what I want to do, and I think the people in Ontario feel exactly the same way. You can't say it until they show up in your backyard 10 feet away from your back fence in a park. You change the tune really quickly.
On that note, will you use the notwithstanding clause?
Well, we had a letter from, I think it's 12 or 15 mayors across the province supporting us and moving forward with this. Let's see what happens. We will always be there for Guelph in Cambridge. If they get challenged in court, the province will be right there with them, supporting them in court.
Hello, Premier. Matthew Van Dongen from the Hamilton Spectator. I'll probably to ask you on that topic again. You have some mayors and councils certainly asking you to use the notwithstanding clause to help clear encampments from parks, but then other councils are not making that request, like here in Hamilton, for example. So given that division of opinion among councils, is it fair to consider using the notwithstanding clause?
Well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens in Guelph. Let's see what happens in Cambridge. We'll decide after the courts decide, but we're going to be there to support the communities. And even if we did use it, it doesn't force any city to go along with it. That's fine. If they want encampments in their community, so be it. I don't know too many people that want encampments, to be very, very frank with you.
Okay. And then
those encampments are about as popular as bike lanes.
As a follow-up, you recently announced, the province recently announced the start of procurement for LRT in Hamilton.
Yes, we did.
And the province, through Metrolinx, is going to be buying about 100 properties up and down that line.
Yep.
And we're told when that construction is done, there will be leftover property. Are you willing to commit some of that property to build affordable or supportive housing?
Well, we'd sit down with the mayor. This is the mayor's town and the council. They represent them, and we'd sit down and say, what do you want to do with the property? That's what we'd be doing. But we do need the federal government. As we see the costs escalating, we put $1.7 billion into that LRT. And like anything, costs go up, but we need the feds to come to the table.
Last reporter.
Hi, Premier. Siobhan Morris, CTV News. I'm looking for your thoughts about the deal that the federal government has reached with your government on the school breakfast program.
Yeah, well, we're always in to support the breakfast program. I've been a big fan of it from day one, and we're going to work hand in hand with the federal government to make sure the kids don't go to school hungry. And we know if they have a little food in their stomach, they're doing well. I supported it back when I was a city councillor with my brother Rob as mayor in the city of Toronto. I'm a fan of it. So.
And returning to your favorite bike lanes, you've talked about, you'd be surprised how quickly these things can come out. When do you anticipate that removal to actually happen?
We're going to be working with the mayor directly. By the way, I have a phenomenal relationship with Mayor Chow. She's such a really good person, nice person. We may differ sometimes on policies, but we get along very, very well. And we'll sit down, and I know that she agrees The Bloor West bike lanes are coming out. And don't be shocked if she's standing beside me as we're taking them out. Folks, no one, I can speak for the Etobicoke folks there, they despise these bike lanes. All the store owners despise the bike lanes. Zero consultation. Less than 0.5% of people are using them compared to 70% of drivers that are stuck behind these cars because of these bike lanes. But we're all done there. I just want to thank the media for actually acknowledging our great firefighters instead of damn bike lanes. These people are heroes, and maybe we should be complimenting them a little more. They're champions, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for doing an incredible job in saving lives and putting your lives on the line. I'm forever grateful to our firefighters, all our first responders, by the way, police and paramedics as well. May God bless you, and just keep going out there and keep fighting away. Thank you so much.